My name is Claire McCann, and voice matters when you're speaking to an audience. In 2004, presidential candidate and governor of Vermont, Howard Dean, gave a speech after losing the Iowa caucus to John Kerry. He gave the speech to supporters, telling them about the states he plans on winning, but at the end he gave a big scream, shouting, "Yeah!" And within 4 days, the speech had been on all major news networks, and it was broadcasted on 633 news and cable channels. Some professional writers have concluded that because of the major broadcasting of this yell and the way he addressed the crowd was the reason he lost that election. Now, none of us are going to have speeches during presidential races anytime soon, but we will be in situations where our tone and voice could determine the outcome of meetings, career paths, or even friendships. A quote from the Acrolinks team says, "Tone of voice is how the character of your business comes through your words, both written and spoken. It's not what you say, but rather the way you say it and the impression it makes to everyone in your audience." This brings up the topic I want to speak about today. Your voice and tone are some of the most important aspects when you present. It's not only how the audience hears you, but it's how you present yourself. Audience members are able to read you like a book when you present just by the tone of your voice, whether it be booming or cracking. You don't need overconfidence to find the right voice that you're looking for, and that's what I want to showcase today. When people hear you speaking, they want to know that they're speaking to an actual human. You often hear of students sleeping in class or checking their phone, and it's usually because they're zoning out on something they don't really necessarily care about. It's totally valid if the speaker is using a dull voice. They might sound robotic or just reading from a textbook. No one wants to hear that. Your tone is how you feel about the message that you're presenting, so if you aren't enthusiastic about it, your audience won't be either. If you want your audience to have a dull feeling about the subject that you're talking about, then maybe it is correct way to use a dull voice. But Kate Morgan, a writer of the Nelson Norman Group, states that there's 4 dimensions of tone of voice, and the first one is funny versus serious. Do you want your audience to laugh at what you're saying, or do you want them to have a more ambiance tone? That has to deal with the subject matter, of course. Then there's formal versus casual. Is the speaker wearing a suit? Is this speaker the boss of your company? Or is it just someone who showed up at your school or a classmate? Then there's respect versus irrelevant. Is the approach towards the subject done in a respectful manner, or are they more on an irrelevant tone? The last one is enthusiastic versus matter of fact. Is the writing dry? Is the speaker straight to the fact, or is there a story to it? Is the speaker enthusiastic about what they're saying? These are all excellent points to think about when you're writing your speech and how you want to convey your message. Now that you've got your tone down, now you have to figure out your voice. Your voice utilizes the way you emphasize on different words and the volume of your voice. Once you've gotten the correct tone for your delivery, the next step you need to find is your voice so that your impact will resonate with the audience. Here are some tips to find the correct voice that you're looking for, whether that be the emphasis of words that you want to use or the actual tone of your voice, The first one would be melody. You don't want to fake your enthusiasm, and you don't want your tone to waver during your speech. Make sure that you emphasize different parts of your speech that you want the audience to remember. Make sure to emphasize your tone in parts of your speech that might be lacking. That way your audience will remember something once they leave. Like I said before, you don't want your speech to just completely be monotone. Volume is also an important tool to learn when giving a speech. The volume might impact the way that your audience hears you. You always have to make sure the back of the room can hear you just as well as the people in front of the room. You could also do an array of volumes to emphasize different words in your speech. That could be speaking louder or softer, doing parts that need to be exaggerated. A speech isn't an ordinary conversation between two people. That's why you need to make sure that your speech gets across physically to your audience, either that be by volume or clarity. Pausing and pacing are the last two tools that I wanted to talk about today. According to Tehran, when the pause is correctly placed among the speech, it can make a difference between a good and an excellent speech. When pacing, you never want to rush through your speech. You never want your audience to never be able to get the chance to metabolize what you're saying, or even the opposite. You don't want your audience to be bored if you're talking too slow. Practicing going both fast and slow could help you find the rhythm that you're looking for. Practicing could also help you recognize the natural flow of things. The best type of presentations are the ones that you feel that the presenter is directly speaking to you. They have great body language, their tone isn't ever wavering, and their audience is captivated by their choice of words. And you don't need fancy words, you don't need a fancy way of speaking. All you need is the right tone and voice. Your tone and your voice could make and break a speech. You'd rather listen to someone who's confident in what they're saying and excited for what they're saying, rather than someone who might be a little bit boring or anxious during their speech. And the tips I presented today should allow you to use your tone in the correct way that you want. The reason I wanted to have a presentation like this is I want people to be able to speak their truth when they present, rather than be anxious. Your message should be the most important thing in your presentation, and it's just the way you get there. And with that, my name is Claire McCann, and this is how to use your voice correctly when you present.